Hey everyone, so this is to get you started, and you actually need me for it. It should say, the handout that you're looking at is week 13. There's an in class, this is what we're doing in class, and there's a we do, there's one you should partner up with, and one that you should do on your own. So unfortunately, since you are the only person here, we will be doing the we do together, and I will do some of the partner up ones, but otherwise you'll be responsible for filling up the other two categories. So the way I want you to go through this video is do one row at a time. So we will do this one, and then you should pause the video and work on those two. All right, let's take a look at this one. So factor the GCF. That's all we're going to do here. In factoring the GCF, what we want to do is first, I believe everything on here is in standard form, but we always want our line leader, our leading term, to be positive. So as soon as it starts out negative, we'll at least be factoring out a negative. And now I'm going to check out the numbers. So what number goes into 3, 12, and 15? Well, that would be a 3. I always look at my smallest number and see if it will go into the other two. And then I look to see how many x's I can take from everybody. So this has 3 x's, this has 2, and this has 1. So I'll be able to take at least 1 x from everybody. So now, negative 3x will multiply or meet someone to make negative 3x cubed. So negative 3 times what makes negative 3? Well, that's a positive 1. And there were 3 x's here, but I just took one of them away. So that's going to leave 2 x's left. And so negative 3 times what makes a positive 12? Well, that's a negative 4. And of their 2 x's, since I took one away, there's 1 left. And negative 3 times what makes negative 15? Well, that is a positive 5. And I took all of these x's away, so there's none left. So what you should do is try to do this one and this one. I will get you started on this one. These are all very similar. And the fact is here, I'll go ahead and tell you that your GCF here is going to be a negative, because I can't have my line leader being negative. It's got to be a positive. And 13 does go into all 3 numbers. And then I can, while this has 4 x's and 2 x's and 1 x, that means I can take 1 x from each term. And your job is to finish the parentheses, and then you do this one. So pause the video and do that row. All right, now the next row is just factor the trinomial. In this whole row, you will be making the x. So to do that, I take my first and my last, and I'm going to multiply those, and the middle term goes in the bottom. And when I look at my list of 24, 6 and 4 will get me to 2. Now, if there's a negative on top or bottom, there's a negative on the sides, and if this is positive, there are more positives and fewer negatives. And I don't need these numbers anymore. They did their job to get me the side numbers, and so I'm going to go ahead and make my parentheses, put my x's on the left side, and now ask myself if this term and this term, the 2 first terms, make this first term. So the x and the x make the x squared. I just need the numbers that multiply to give me 3. And that's going to be a 3 and 1. So now I'll draw my face, top of the head, and the smile. And 1 isn't picky. 1 can make either of these, but 3 is picky. And 3 can only make a positive 6. So since I'm going to be making a positive 6, I'll need a positive number. So 3 times what makes 6? That's 2. And that means 1 will have to make the negative 4. And since I need a negative 4, I'll definitely have a negative. So 1 times the negative 4 make the negative 4. So your job is to do these 2 problems. All right? Last part is factor the difference of squares. So the difference of squares means you have to have 2 terms, which these all do. Difference, they all have to have subtraction. And squares, each term is a perfect square, so it has a nice square root, which I've just written down for you. And from there, you can make one parentheses and the other super fast, and just put a plus and a minus in one of each in each parentheses. And it doesn't matter if it's the plus and then the minus. So you can do these, and then jump to the back. So the back is factoring completely. That means not only are we going to do the GCF, but then based on the number of terms, we're either going to do the difference of squares or we're going to do the x. So I'm following this cheat sheet. They're all in standard form. We're going to do the GCF first. So here, what I notice first is I can take a 3 out of both of those. And then that's it. I can't take an x out because this term doesn't have an x. So 3 times what makes this x squared? Well, 3 times 1 is 3, and it still has its x's. And then 3 times what makes negative 27? Well, that would be a negative 9. So once I've done the GCF, whatever's still in the parentheses, and you know what, while you're here, let's add these in parentheses. Whatever's still in the parentheses, this has 2 terms. I'm going to see if it's a difference of squares. And it is, because there's 2 terms. There's the difference, and these all have nice square roots. So here, this GCF, this 3 is coming down. And now I'll be making my parentheses. This color is not working. Moment. And I'll take the square root of 1x squared, which is 1x, and I'll take the square root of 9, which is 3. They will fill my factor parentheses, and I'll put a plus with one and a minus with the other. So this is your final factored form, and we actually have 3 factors: 3, 1x plus 3, and 1x minus 1. And so your job is to do those 2. And then the last one is factor completely as well. So again, I'll start with GCF. So I'm going to take, I realize I can take a 4 out of all of these, but they don't all have an x for me to take out of. So I'll just take the 4, and that leaves me with 4 times 1 is 4 with all of its x's. 4 times another 1 is 4 with its x, and 4 times a negative 2 is this 8. And now what's in parentheses, since this is 3 terms, right? I'll be making my x just for the stuff that's in parentheses. So I'll do a little underlining here. I keep switching to that color. It's never going to work again. I ran out of ink. All right, so multiply your first and your last. Your middle term is the bottom. And the good news is there's only one set of factors for 2, 1 and 2. And if there's a negative here, there's at least one negative here. So if this number's positive, that means there were more positives and fewer negatives. So joining my GCF of 4 will come my new parentheses. Put my x's on the left side, and this term and this term make 1. So the x and the x make the x squared. So I just need a 1 and a 1 here to make 1x squared. And now I'll draw my face, the top of the head and the smile. I don't need these numbers anymore. I always like to scribble them out. And since these are both 1 and neither are picky, I'll just have this one make this negative 1. So since it's a negative 1, I'll know I need a negative number here. So 1 times negative 1 is the negative 1. And then 1 times what will make that positive 2? Well, I'll just make that a positive 2. And now we're done, and we have 3 factors. Our GCF factor, 1x plus 2 is the other factor, 1x minus 1 is another factor. So you finish this row, and then 3 more problems without any guidance. And you should do factor completely. So start with GCF, and then do your 2 terms or 3 terms based on what there still is.